Great. Thanks, Ira. And thank you to all the panelists again. That was a wonderful presentation and discussion, and hopefully it got everybody thinking about the possibilities, because really the possibilities are endless, and again depend on the folks in this room to help us use this network to its ultimate and highest and best use. Next, I have the great opportunity of introducing Senator Barbara Mikulski, who recently became the longest-serving woman in Congress in the United States of America history. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to speak, but I want a round of applause just for that achievement right there. It is a tremendous honor to be with you and to be your friend, and I can't thank you enough for being here this morning. I'm not going to go into her lengthy bio. I want to just talk about her role with this project in particular. I said earlier when I was here that we are here talking about this One Maryland Broadband network because of the Recovery Act and because of President Obama's vision and the federal delegations taking tough votes to get this funding for us. There was no greater champion of this project than Senator Barbara Mikulski. We had multiple conversations, many conversations throughout this process with her staff, and from day one, she understood its power and its importance. She has been a fighter for broadband access for rural Maryland for decades, and understanding its critical relationship to economic development in the rural areas of Maryland, the Eastern Shore, as it ties into our space program. But she immediately understood the power of having a robust network that linked anchor institutions throughout this state. She understands the digital divide and why we need to break it down and eradicate it so that every child in every neighborhood and every part of this great state has opportunities. She understands the power of this network to create jobs, and not just jobs in some areas of Maryland, but in every area of Maryland. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you we have no stronger, better partner and fighter and champion of this project and this network than Senator Barbara Mikulski.
Good morning, everybody. Ken, thank you for that introduction. And yes, I am the longest-serving woman in the history of the United States Congress. But I promise you, though I'm the longest-serving, I won't be the longest talking, because I know you want to get on with the program. You have another great speaker after me, Mr. Strickling from the Department of Commerce, who really has been the prime mover in the federal government to move the legislation of broadband forward. I want to thank Ken not only for his introduction, but I want to say to each and every one of you, without Ken Ullman, we would not have Maryland Broadband. It was his vision, it was his verve, and quite frankly, his treaty negotiations with other competing interests in Maryland. We had one group that wanted Maryland Broadband, another that wanted to apply to the federal government, and we would have ended up with piecemeal applications that would not have had the kind of turbo effect that you see here. And Ken brought everyone together for this single application, and then as we went to fight for it, to compete for it, Governor O'Malley also, we could not have done it without Governor O'Malley and his commitment of $32 million in matching funds. So, Ken, I want to thank you in behalf of the delegation, and I think in behalf of everyone who really is going to be using broadband, not only today but in the future, for your leadership, your verve, and with those kind of skills, Hillary could call you any day. We need you in the Middle East as well as in Central America. So, well, I'm delighted to be here today for this a very important vendor conference. I'm no Janie come lately to broadband. At the dawn of the internet age, I became concerned about the digital divide, because I knew as the internet was coming along, initially in the late 80s with big box this and big dreams that, and then in the 1990s as it accelerated, even with the dot-com boom and bust, we knew that this was going to be the new future. And I was concerned about the future of the people I represent. I was concerned that there'd be a new digital divide where communities or groups would either be redlined or sidelined because they didn't have access to broadband internet services. I knew that if you were on the right side of the divide, that you had access to broadband, that students were learning technology, that they had access to it in public institutions like schools and libraries. If you were on the right side of the divide, your future would be great. But if you were on the wrong side of the divide, you would fall farther and farther back. I saw the initial potential for the digital divide as our beloved Chesapeake Bay, that I knew we would have broadband service on the western shore, but I wasn't so sure about the eastern shore, that what it would take to do that. But I had a great friend in the United States Senate, a man by the name of John Warner from Virginia. My good friend, John Warner, I know he had a crush once on Liz Taylor, but he came to love me at the end. And I knew that the new jewels that would come through would be broadband. Senator Warner worried about the tidal waters of Virginia. He knew Norfolk would be okay, but he worried about his shore. I was concerned about us. So what did we do? We went to work and we took where broadband was at Pax River, and we worked steadfastly with the Maryland Broadband Cooperative to link from Pax River to Wallops Island, which is now going to be Spaceport Wallops, and that's another conference and another forum, where we're going to actually be lifting unmanned space cargo to the space station. So we wanted to get broadband from Pax to Wallops. Senator Warner was going to take it down the tidal waters, and then I wanted to bring it up the shore. I must compliment Governor Ehrlich, because he was on the job at that time, and working with Aris Melastrasis, we started our steady march, and we picked up that with Governor O'Malley. So there we were doing it a mile at a time. In the good old days of earmarks, I could do that, and we were steadily building that. And we knew it would be good. But then came the terrible economic recession of 2008, and then President Obama came in. President Obama's vision was that he wanted to have a stimulus bill. But unlike Japan, that said we're going to build physical infrastructure for today, the president wanted to have jobs today and jobs tomorrow. And he wanted not only jobs that created bricks and mortar or big construction, but he also wanted clicks and modem and the jobs for the future. So he proposed putting money in the stimulus package, the American Recovery Act, to build broadband around America based on competitive grants. So I worked very hard to, number one, pass the President Obama stimulus package. We got a really bad rap for that. But bad raps are one thing, but it's turned out that it's a very good idea. And then, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, the stimulus money comes into my committee. So I took what was not only on the law books, but put it in the checkbooks. Then it came back to Maryland. This isn't something that you could direct based on political clout. It had to be one on mission and merit. And this is where the leadership comes in. I am so proud of Team Maryland. We in the delegation worked to pass the Obama legislation. We've got it in the law books. People like me and Steny Hoyer and others on appropriations got it in the federal checkbook, but we had to compete. Then we had all these competing interests. This is where Ken came in. This is where working with Governor O'Malley came in. They came in and we put together the One Maryland vision so that we would be the only state in the United States of America that would go for one big grant that would wire our entire state. Wire our entire state. And because of it, and Governor O'Malley and the Maryland General Assembly stepped up and said, we'll put in our matching funds. At the end of the day, we were one of the first to receive a federal grant of $115 million that went right in the federal checkbook that are creating jobs right here in Maryland today. You're here to sell your products, so you're creating your own jobs today, but we are got the fiber for jobs today and jobs tomorrow. We're going to build it. You're going to help operate it. You're going to help maintain it. You're going to help make sure there is no digital divide. And we do it because we want to create jobs. Right now, in the construction of laying the fiber, over 800 people. We're going to improve community safety, because you're going to help us get connected to 262 emergency centers and 9 call centers all around the state. So when anybody in Maryland, no matter how remote or how poor they might be, when they dial 911, they're going to get high-speed access. And then we're going to do educational opportunities. 480 Maryland schools and universities. We'll be able to do distance learning. A top physics teacher at Polytechnic School in Baltimore can be teaching in Garrett County or in Somerset County. No digital divide here in Maryland. We hope to improve health care with it. We're going to connect to our important defense agencies. And how about the boom in cybersecurity? We have the mothership at Fort Meade, but we're no Ninas or Pintas in this room. We're ready to set sail in terms of the cyber world. These are why we talk about jobs. And for those of us who worked on the stimulus money, it's not about jobs in government. It was to unleash jobs in the private sector, to build it, to operate it, to maintain it, to do connectivity that we don't even envision today, so that wherever we are in Maryland, we will be one Maryland, and we will be one Maryland with a bright future. Because when we look around and see ourselves, we are the only state to be like this. And we're going to be the first state to complete our fiber network. So as one of the vendors said to me today, I said, what do you do? He said, I fiber up. So that's going to be my new slogan. So I am fired up, and I'm ready to fiber up. I like this high-fiber diet for Maryland. We are not a lean cuisine state, so let's get going. Let's get the job done so more people can work, and may the force continue to be with us. Thank you.